Hey team, welcome back to Off the Platform. We've done a lot of episodes. I don't know how many. I've lost it. Greg always keeps count. But anyway, so I'm here with Greg. How you doing, Greg?
34. Good, thanks. I was going to say Josh. Good, thanks, Jackson. How are you?
Right, we're obviously experienced. We're on the money.
Oh, it's early morning Sunday here.
But anyway, so today we have arguably, I've seen it announced a bit, arguably one of the best strength, or the best strength coach in the world, jailhousestrong, Mr. Josh Bryant. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me on, Jackson. Appreciate it. And thank you for having me on, Greg.
Welcome. Pleasure.
Thanks for your time.
What time is it out there?
9 o'clock Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always one of the things we've run into when we started this is like, how do we were initially just started it like for the lads, just have a yarn.
Sure.
So it was going to be easy. And then now we're like, oh, actually, hang on, we've got to make do with like time travel and shit,
Yeah. So, Josh, whereabouts are you? Where are you relocated?
South Lake, Texas. So it's close to Dallas, not too 20, 30 minutes away.
Fantastic. Yeah, and you're still training out of Metroflex, yeah?
Go there or to Destination as well. That's in Plano because this area is big. So, I mean, either one is like when I was at Metroflex all the time, I moved about 10 minutes from there. Right now, I'm about 35 minutes from either. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And do you still get a lot of clients out of Metroflex as well? I think I saw you mention at one point that there's not too many trainers out of Metroflex. Is that the statement that I heard?
There definitely is not too many trainers out of Metroflex. Bryant, obviously, the owner, does a good job, and there's a few good ones there now. But yeah, definitely, it's not a place where if you're trying to make a living as a trainer, it would probably be like you better be ready to really have some creative strategies or go hungry.
Is that just the nature of the athletes that go there? Because obviously some big names, Johnny Jackson, forgot his name.
Warren.
Yeah, Branch Warren, people like that as well. So these guys are, these guys, Ronnie Coleman, pretty self-sufficient or just,
Well, there's two ways to look at it. So there people are gonna be more self-sufficient and you're gonna have to sell them on it more because they've gotten pretty far. But I think a lot of it also is just the area it's in. It's not like, it's not in a nice area. And generally when people, from a training in-person type of business, when you're looking at, it could be up to well over $100 a workout or session. If it's in a rough area, I mean, trying to, pay their rent, let alone, spend over $100 multiple times a week on a session. So that's a large part of it too.
Yeah,
it's not a nice area.
That's always for when I started coaching like 10 years ago, that's hard, man. Like you gotta pick your battles. I've worked in some pretty flash gyms, but they're the most boring clients to train.
Yeah.
I want to lose weight. Oh, well, if you stopped eating 3 pizzas and drinking a 24 pack on the weekend, that'd probably help. Like your cucumber water on a Monday morning doesn't do shit. But anyway, I mean, so Josh, you wouldn't really work with too many gen pop people anymore.
Well, at Metroflex, what I found a way to combat that was do more group training, and the clients seemed to like it too. So that was good. But I'm not opposed to working to gen pop at all. If someone wants to work hard, it's just that's not usually who would come to me. So I don't know, if someone had the work ethic and wanted to, but like. Yeah, in the same way, if you just want to lose like 10 pounds, whatever, there's people that you'd probably be better. Enjoy the process more.
Yeah. So I mean, Josh's clientele obviously world class. So I mean, some of the names that I've seen you work with, etc., is like Julius Maddox, James Strickland, Jeremy Hoonstra. Obviously, huge benches. Also bodybuilders, Johnny Jackson. Did you do some work with like Branch Warren and stuff at some stage?
Warren too,
yeah, like, and then also you do a lot of stuff with Defense Force, Army, Marines.
Yeah, a lot with the military. So that came later because what happened there was I wasn't like seeking the market, so to speak. What happened was I was done powerlifting myself to focus on everybody else. And I figured since I'm not powerlifting, there's no point of training for like you are powerlifting because I want to be functional in everything that I do. And so people saw me doing like different things at Metroflex that are quote unquote like functional type of, tactical type of training. So people just started seeking me out, saying, I see you do this, I want to do this type of thing. So that's how that kind of came about. It wasn't like, like I thought, there's this new market to attack. What do we do here? It was more like, no, I'm done powerlifting. I'm going to start training this way. But that type of training lends real well to the military and law enforcement, because I don't know how it is there. Here it is. There's a lot of like, like goofiness when it comes to like, you have like a couple different schools. You have one kind of tactical training that's going to be more like, let's just do powerlifting, but then we like end the workout with 10 kettlebell swings, and then like you're ready to like, chase someone down, 150 meters at full speed and 30 pounds of gear. That ain't going to happen. Or you get the other school, like, let's just, do something on a ball with, like TRX with one leg in the air and, for like 3 minutes straight. And that's all you do. You don't ever lift anything heavy. So I think I brought like a common sense approach to it, where we do realize strength is your base, but you also have to be able to move. Just because you can, deadlift 700 or 800 pounds doesn't mean you can necessarily like you're agile, which how you're agile doesn't mean you can deadlift 700 or 800 pounds. So,
Yeah, I can definitely confirm that.
Yeah, I've seen Jackson tie his shoelaces. It's not pretty.
To hold your breath as you go down,
There you go.
I mean, so obviously coaching has come on later. So back when you started lifting quite young, 12, 13, 14.
I started lifting like serious about 5. I mean, I started lifting at 5 years old.
Wow.
Okay, real young. Perfect.
Seriously, like 12.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I saw that you like started even working at a gym at like 15 or 16.
Yeah, I started managing a gym. It worked out. When I was in high school, one of the football coaches was, I guess he was dating a lady that was like worked at this gym, and I told her I wanted to work there, and she got me a job there, and I started working there, and I got to be around a lot of good bodybuilders, and powerlifters. Like I never met Ed Cohn when I was in high school face to face. I talked to him on the phone, but he had come through there. Like Dr. Squat, Fred Hatfield was coming through this gym, kind of like a who's who of any sort of bodybuilder from the 90s was coming through there. So it was pretty exciting. And it was kind of like that's when I lived in California. It was kind of like the last of its sort of type, and out there.
Yeah.
And that time period. Thankfully now there's been like a kind of a resurgence of more hardcore gyms, which is nice to see. But for a long time there, from like late 90s to like about early like 2010 2012, there was like nothing out there at all. There was no kind of like just you get banned from a gym if you deadlifted, or that's why like there's so many garage gyms and stuff in California and in the United States. Because I mean that like up until a few years ago, the majority of people I'd say for sure were training at some sort of home-based gym, just because you weren't really welcome, or you have a problem, this and that.
Josh, do you think that's partly down to the advent of CrossFit, and also with powerlifting moving to Raw? Obviously, the numbers of lifters just increase exponentially.
Sure, I think you bring up a great point with CrossFit. I absolutely agree. I think it's weird that a lot of people in powerlifting seem so oppositional to CrossFit. It seems because they're kind of helping it, like make it grow. They're making it also like, if they're going to, if you think about it, like if you're running a meet, right? You get like them to, not to sound mean, but you get them to enter, they're going to squat like 185 pounds or something. So it doesn't take very long to load it. They're paying the same entry fee. So from a standpoint, it's good too, right? And then it brings people awareness. So you have somebody going to CrossFit that maybe doesn't do well on the 800 meter sprint, but they can deadlift 600 by accident, then they can kind of funnel off into powerlifting. So that's huge. I think the Instagram or social media, whatever type of thing's been big too, because before, like it was like when I first started powerlifting, this was not something you would do to gain any kind of fame or notoriety. It was more like you kind of like, people, why are you doing this type of thing? You'd have to like justify it to somebody if you wanted to talk about it a lot. Where now where like other traditional sports, you could just go at it, have fun, do them, and then, you might get some recognition for it. But now with social media, there's been like a lot of, you see there's other like-minded people. And then now it's interesting that people are doing it just for that, where like there was no chance to even get that in the first place before. So I think all these things kind of have like led to a perfect storm for the sport to grow, so.
Yeah, no, there's been a change of perception too about women with muscle as well. So you're seeing a lot of great looking women with biceps and shoulders and so forth. And, women are going, actually, that's the look that I would like to go for. How do I get into that sort of thing? And whether it be CrossFit or otherwise, they're aiming to achieve that type of physique.
I'm with you. Yep.
Cool.
I think that was one of those things as well. CrossFit, it made it like girls were sort of like, hey, we can do cardio, but we can lift as well, if you know what I mean. And then it sort of was like a soft introduction to weights versus like, you have to do cardio or weights. And then they were like, actually, this lifting is pretty cool. This isn't bad. Let's do this.
I felt bad for like the whole female population that was lifting early 2000s. I mean, they'd go on to a powerlifting meet and they'd have like, like a bunch of pit bulls that smell meat or something, just, around them.
Yeah.
If you're having trouble meeting somebody and you're female, you wanted to, about 20 years ago, just do a powerlifting meet. It didn't matter if you deadlifted 85 or 600. You're gonna have a slew of potential dates there. So.
Yeah,
like speed dating.
Exactly. I don't know about Josh. I don't know about meets over in the US, but I mean over here it's easily 50-50 male female at most meets now.
I wouldn't say it's quite that much, but I don't know exactly what it is, but there's no shortage of female lifters. There's no shortage of male lifters. I mean, it was like, and even like you talk about raw there, I remember like vividly when this happened here. So about 2007 or so, there was starting to be in Texas more raw opportunities to lift. Then all of a sudden the USPA had a meet 2012 down in Austin. And they had they limited it to 60 people, and it was full. I'm sure a few people don't show up, but let's say there's 55 people there, whatever. And I looked, and there were 3 people lifting equipped. It went from like 50-50 to that day. There were 3 people lifting equipped, and I never have seen it even close to like, it's like now when someone shows up to a meet like equipped, it's like, a lot of people just like it's almost like an alien showed up or something around here, at least.
People look at the equipped people these days, they're like, what is it? People don't even know though. Some people, I've literally talked to powerlifters now who have been lifting for a couple of years and they don't even know what a squat suit is. And they'll just be like, they'll see someone like, what is that? Why is he holding his arms funny? You know what I mean? When they're benching and stuff, they have no idea what equipped is. Yeah,
well, it's been 10 years at least, 8, 9. I mean, it's obviously still strong in some federations and some pockets, but all in all, it's not as popular as it once was.
No, and it's not as popular relatively, obviously, as a percentage of the market share of like, say we have, I have no idea how many, just make it 100,000 people lifting worldwide and it meets. And like now, and say 1,000 of them are equipped, where I think before, if we had 20,000 people, there was still 2,000 lifting equipped. So I think the actual, not just the percentage has dropped, but the actual number is, because around here, around here, the biggest actual population of equipped lifting is high school. So Texas High School Powerlifting Association has like 15,000, 20,000 lifters, and I'm not sure why it's equipped. I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's because I don't think the people running the federation like have a whole lot of powerlifting experience. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like, people, I remember when I did lifting, it was equipped. People are always concerned about, like losing sponsors, say if they went raw. But I mean, the people saying that, I mean, what are you losing? Like a bigger, it's not like you're, retiring from the meet to your 100-foot yacht with, cigars and 5,000 bottles of cognac. It's, trophies gonna be 2 inches less or what?
Exactly.
But spend $1,000 on equipment. I mean, what are they bringing to the table type of thing? And I think the high school meets for some reason still have it, where that would be, in my opinion, like the worst time to do it, because the older lifters can make it stronger. You know, if someone like 55 years old had a bunch of shoulder surgeries, whatever, fine. You know, maybe a bench press shirt makes more sense there. But like when you have, you know, I guess you guys don't really have football there, but like we do here. So it's 320 pound, you know, high school linemen, you know, can bench 320 body weight without a shirt, then, you know, puts it on and does 570, then tries 600 and almost gets like sawed in half because it's double his max. You know, that's not good, I don't think, from a developmental standpoint or a safety one.
No, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of numbers and equipped, Josh, we were looking at your open powerlifting records and just trying to figure it out and see if they were correct. Because from the last meet was 2005. Is that correct?
2009.
2009. Okay. And we're just looking at some of the numbers and just figuring out, because a raw bench of 281 is absolutely phenomenal. But in single ply, 287. So is that correct? They're both the single ply at 280?
Yeah. So with the single ply, I didn't train for it really. What I did is I just I got a shirt that was like way too big where, you know, I could bring down 225 in it.
Okay.
And it just added a little bit versus like, because that was a money meet. And I didn't want to like reinvent the wheel and change my training around to do it. But at the same time, I wanted to win the money. So I kind of did like an in-between stance there of like, all right, I'm going to throw this on, but I'm not going to change everything I'm doing for, you know, 3 months to master the shirt, so to speak. So yeah.
I mean, because some of these shirts you can get 100, 200 pounds out of them, can't you? If not more.
I mean, yeah, I've seen, you know, I mean, because what, you know, Scott Mendel set the record in both equipped and, you know, raw. And it was what was it like, you know, I don't know.
It was like close to like 300 pounds difference, wasn't it? It was crazy.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. He was doing like mid 1,000-pound sort of benches in this shirt. And then he benched like early
15.
sevens raw.
You benched 715.
Yeah.
330, 40 pound difference. And that's somebody that's clearly a great raw bencher. That's somebody that clearly is not afraid to put it on the line. So you look at somebody maybe that like, you don't ever see a raw lift in training or on the internet or like doing, I mean, what's the difference there? You know, 500 pounds. I have no idea.
Yeah. Cause they just never bench raw.
Yeah. They don't.
So speaking of benches, Josh was does this still stand, the youngest person ever to bench 600 pounds?
No, because the guy I worked with actually ended up beating that. So he's not powerful anymore, but yeah.
So you did it, and then you coached the guy who then beat you.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So benching 600 pounds at 18.
18?
Was it 18?
No,
yeah,
22. 21.
22. Yeah. No, the kid beat me 21. Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, yeah. So, and then was it also, so obviously you weren't literally just a bencher. Was your 900 pound squat, was that raw or that was single ply?
That was single ply.
That was single ply. What was your best raw?
I never did any raw meets squatting. There wasn't much of it. So I did, I don't know what I could have done, because I can tell you what I have done is I did at Metroflex one day, like really easy and deep, no knee sleeves, no nothing, just 775. So I don't know, like, that's one of the things of, you don't know, like if I would have put, like, it felt like I could have done 850 that day, but I mean, I didn't run up that heavy. So maybe it would have got weird where like 800, I just, you know, it stuck at the bottom because I wasn't used to it. I have no idea, because I was on the suit after that.
So 770, yeah, that's so 775 just for kilo listeners is like 350. So that's 350 BNEs, just about.
Yep, just about. No sleeves, no nothing.
That's incredible.
That's ludicrous.
I got a video of me doing on the internet on YouTube doing a box squat at 9 inches with 700.
Again, yeah, that's a low box.
Very low box, you know.
That's like mowing the lawn type shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now, Josh, we were curious. Well, I'm curious. You competed up till about the age of 20. Was it late 20s, mid 20s?
Late 20s.
Late 20s, yeah. And then you haven't competed since. What was the reason for that?
I just got into coaching so many people that I thought it would be, I don't say a conflict of interest. I don't think I could have focused my attention well both places because I was doing so many different things. So, you know, I always think that for me personally, I've heard Dave Tate or somebody said that bodybuilders and powerlifters, when they're focused, make the worst employees. And I think I would have been like the perfect example of that, because when I was competing, it's all I thought about. You know, it was like it just, the day revolved around like even going to get groceries or something. It wasn't gonna be at night, the night before I squat, because I don't want to walk and that kind of stuff. So
wow,
I don't really think I could have been there for anybody. It would have been,
yeah,
you know, so I had to make a choice.
No regrets, nothing left on the table that you wish you had got.
No, because at that point I'd gotten into especially working with like more high school kids and football particularly, and going to like games and stuff and seeing them do well was like really exciting to me. So I like luckily found out that I liked doing this for other people more than even myself.
Yeah,
I like to do it for myself a lot. So that luckily I discovered that and was able to pursue that, where had I not, you know, had I had a normal job and just done powerlifting, I don't think I would have discovered that necessarily. So by just doing, you know, I'm going to do like whatever, like 10, 15 hours of personal training a week at the time to get by, I discovered that in the process, which was cool.
Yeah. I've just started coaching or working with a coach at my son's college, lifting. And we're only week 6 in, and the kids did the squat for the first time. So I can relate to what you just said, because after they squatted for the first time, the big beaming smiles, and obviously it was really rewarding. It was awesome. Yeah. It was like,
how old were the kids?
Their ages, I think the youngest would be actually my son and a few of his friends at 11. So between 11 and 13. We haven't had any of the older kids join up yet, but we've got 17 kids between those sort of 3 ages there. So yeah, just starting out, but it's just coming back to what you said, rewarding. You know, it's great.
So where are you guys at, in Auckland or somewhere?
Yeah, I'm in Auckland, and Jackson's in the other big city down the bottom of the South Island, Christchurch.
Yeah. We've got like a 1 in 100 year storm at the moment. It's like bucketing down. It's disgusting.
I saw that, mate. Is any flooding?
Yeah, not by our house. The drainage is like pretty good around our sort of area, but like a lot of, heaps of it is like, we were driving home last night, like late last night, and I was having to almost like drive in the middle of the road in some places because the water's just like up and would have like, you know.
Yeah. So that's wow. Okay.
So we've been having crazy storms here too. I'm really surprised. As you can see out there, it's sunny right now, but it had rain in one form or another, I think, for about 10 days straight here, except for today and yesterday.
Wow.
It's great. I feel like everyone assumes that Texas is like this big desert.
Oh no, Josh, you just said that. I'm like, isn't it just sunny and dry all the time? No.
Well, see, it's kind of weird. Texas is weird because it's so big. So they have, the west part is 100% a desert. Like it's just a normal desert. Hot. East is going to be like totally swampy, like Louisiana. So where I'm at's more east. So, but we have kind of like the perfect storm of heat right here, because we have some of the humidity from the east and we have the heat from the west right here. So I have another place, a big property up in Oklahoma, and it's more east there. And like, even like right now, I don't know what it is in Celsius, but it's like, when it's like 85 degrees up there, it feels like it's, you know, like 105 because it's so humid out there. So
that's like 25, 26 Celsius.
Okay.
For people at home.
For us, yeah. Now, Josh, talking about the kids and ages and so forth, you started lifting at ages 12. Now, I know these days the science says that it's all good. In fact, it's really good. But back then, the science was telling us that it wasn't so hot for kids to get into weights. So, how did you get away with it?
Well, I don't know. You know, what's interesting is like, I was playing basketball and I wanted to jump higher. So my dad told me to go to the weight room, and he said, like, do leg press and do he said do 3 sets of, or just 5 sets of 8 reps. I said, okay.
Oh wow.
And then he's like, all right. I said this is working. Like I can already feel myself jumping higher after a couple months. And I keep, you know, said, what else? He said, well, you can start squatting. And like, no one showed me how or anything. Just went in the weight room and
nice.
I going like really heavy, but like, like the bar was riding up on my neck and that kind of thing. It was craziness. And then someone told me I wasn't going low enough. I was getting really heavy, just doing like partials. And I started squatting deeper. And then my dad's friend that was a powerlifter found out that I was lifting, and he said he'd come to the gym and he'd show me how to lift, do some stuff. I said, okay, cool. And then he said he liked my focus because I wasn't screwing around and I just did what he said. So we just started lifting together. So he's kind of like, this elite level powerlifters training partners, like some 8th grader. So it worked out because, I didn't speak unless spoken to, and I did what he said. So,
well, perfect client, hey Jackson.
That's it, man. Damn, I would have trained you for free as well.
And then you hit your first competition. Hopefully this is correct, at age 15, and you knocked out a 308 pound bench press.
Yeah. Yep.
At
140 kilos, so 3 plates. That's like a gym bro dream for most people.
Yeah.
So that was down in the AAU contest. Yep. It was. I didn't know they were tight though. Like, I mean, they're judging, like having been to so many meets since then. Like they were like cutting like no breaks like to kids or anything like that. It was all business. So I'm like, that would it wasn't fun at the time to get, because like for instance, I did the 308. I got it on the second attempt, but they said that the bar, I don't remember if it paused or whatever in the middle of the lift on the bench, and I, or went down slightly. I don't think it did because I got the weight, it kind of like stalled up. Then I pushed it through, no problem. I think I was prepared to go up to like 320, 325. So I did it over again. But I mean, it was a good first experience in that regard, because it really, their meets they were running in the 90s, they didn't get tougher than that. Like the judging, I've yet to see tougher judging. Like you just would watch lifts, you'd be like, why in the hell did that not pass? And by starting off like that, then you go to like some other meets, it's like going to Disneyland or something, because you got away with that. Cool.
Yeah. Sweet. Hope they didn't see that. That's mint.
Exactly.
So the AAU, are they still around now? What's the modern day equivalent of?
I don't know if there was a guy named Martin Drake. They actually had some interesting people come to that meet. So CT Fletcher is?
Yeah.
He came to the meet. He wasn't lifting. That guy, do you know that guy is? He works out with, or worked out with Richard Schuenberger, the white guy that's.
Oh yeah, I've seen him in in some videos.
So that guy was there, and this is when like no one was lifting raw, like 95. They added for that meet a division called raw. I think it was like the first time I had a name or whatever, and it was all caps, raw. And that guy benched his buddy Schuenberger, benched 6'11". CT Fletcher was there going crazy. Like
I can imagine.
He just kept yelling, going, "Man monster, no drugs, no shirt." And like, dude, CT Fletcher back then, I need to send you guys a picture if I can find it. His arms, like I was around Ronnie Coleman in his prime. I swear to you, his arms seemed about as big as Ronnie Coleman. Me and my friend were talking about it. Went to that meet. Then we found a picture of him. Like, we knew we weren't full of crap. This was like a little kid remembering something that turned out not to be true. Like, sometimes when you see people you think are huge as a kid, you see them later and like
Yeah, always.
Guy, really? No, his arms were like Ronnie Coleman size, dude. And he was there going crazy. And Richard Schuenberger benched 6'11" raw there. Like, I'm talking like it looked like a 45-pound bar. And the weirdest thing happened, he went to 622 and he missed it. Just ran out of gas because he has that close grip.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, not close grip like James Strickland or Jeremy Hornster close, like super close. And
well, like a tricep push, eh?
Yeah, exactly. So it would blast off his chest and then he would just die. Like, and he must have got injured or something, because he kept competing for a while after. It wasn't like it was his last meet. And, I've seen him with some other meets, he do like 529, 551. But, as a kid, I'm smart enough to know you don't go up and like, hey, what the hell happened? I've had like special braces to not, harass the guy about it. But I was curious what did happen, because, I mean, that 6'11" was, I still don't know. Even like, I mean, he's benched it like as fast as like Julius or somebody benched 6'11".
That's crazy, eh? But then
the difference is that Julius can go up to about 800 and it's gonna slow down as it goes, like it should. Where this guy was that fast and just he did a stop. That was it.
Just brute strength, brute strength.
That's crazy. What I mean, in your experience, because like I get a lot of questions about this and like trying to explain it to people how there's some people are fast lifters and some people are slower lifters. You know, like for me, I'm quite slow. Like my 90% will be the same speed as my 100, or like it'll slow down like quite a bit, and I can grind through things like if I need to. Whereas I've got some, obviously there's people who like him, say benches 611, bang, straight away, put 5 kilos, 10 pounds on it, and he misses. Like what do you think that is in terms of like lifters? Like how do you explain that to people?
Well, I think first off, I think when you go closer, that's the advantage to bringing yourself in closer. You're gonna generally be more explosive off the chest because you get that long eccentric load on the way down, loads it up, triceps kind of drive it off the chest. So you're gonna become, no matter who you are, for the most part, you will be faster, closer in off your chest. So there's that. And there's certain people that are really explosive and they have to work at that. So the thing is, like, for example, like the Jeremy Hornsters of the world, like the most explosive, bencher, right? What's the way he counteracted that is he doing reps and it got him better at grinding, and then also doing like isometrics against the pin for like 6 seconds, pushing as hard as he can. That built the grinding strength right there. But you got to realize you are wired one way or the other, probably. So you can, like, if you're like somebody like Richard Schoenberger, just blast it up, or Jeremy Hornstra blast it up. The difference is, as far as I know, Richard didn't go on to develop that grinding strength too. I've not seen all his lifts, so maybe he did somehow. I don't know. From what I saw that day, it wasn't there. Where Jeremy, on his best lifts, he's actually ground some out now. He's like kind of made himself from like the ultimate explosive, I'm going to die out, to I can grind as much as the average person, which is huge. You look at like he's at 1% this way. Now he's median 50% on the grinding. So that's, just how like, certain people, may do, they may not be able to, there may be like fast gainers, people that don't do well with high frequency. They don't do well with high volume, that kind of thing. But the thing is, if we can improve their work capacities, they're genetically wired that way. But if we can improve it 20 or 30%, hell, the possibilities are endless at that point. So I think you have to look at the genetic framework, how somebody's wired, and then you can make it better without taking away who that person is. So it's not going to just train Jeremy Hornstra only being slow, because his speed is a good thing. We don't want to get rid of it. But if we can just keep inching it up, where you get that grinding ability, then you have,
I guess you've got a real challenge from those who got the explosive power. You've got the challenge in terms of maintaining that absolutely stationary bar at the chest. If you've got some incredibly, if you've got some refs judging on point that are looking for an absolutely motionless bar, someone who's explosive, trying to maintain that bar stationary and also maintain that explosive power must be a real challenge. Do you have any advice for lifters like that, Josh? That, because you see them, and I see them, I see them reffing, I see them lifting, and I see that explosive power. And as soon as you say press, there's that bar dip, where it dips down into the chest and they heave it up. But of course, if you're watching really closely, that's a red light.
Sure. I think the thing is, so a lot of people have tried to duplicate Jeremy's fast ascent, typically not successfully.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're saying. So what you have to, a couple things you do there. One, you have to figure out what works for you. Like, there's been really good benchers to bring the bar down slow, really good, bring it fast. Like, for example, if you go on YouTube, there's a guy, he's no longer powerlifting anymore. The first person I worked with that benched over 300 kilos, he did 670, which would be like 305, 304, something like that. And he brings the bar down really slow. It's almost like he looks like he's doing a spoto press or something. It's like, you wonder if he didn't have a shirt on, would it actually be touching? It's like almost hovering, so you have to figure out there. I think that's one issue we have in powerlifting, is a lot of people want to discount the element of style. There is style to how you're going to do a lift. There's not necessarily there's obviously not one way to do a lift. There's certain bad things we want to avoid, but there is that element of style. So Jeremy Hornstra is not going to be like Big Al Davis, where he's basically doing a spoto press, hovering the bar. He does that perfectly, but there's been very few people, so even like squat, if someone is funny, someone's squatting and said, asked me, how fast should I go down? So as fast as you can go without causing like bad pain to your joints or losing tightness. So if somebody, squats down slow, like say like, I think Chad Smith one time asked Stan Efferding why he squats so slow. He said basically that's as fast as I can go and maintain that great positioning that he has.
Mm.
So how fast you can, like Shane, Shane Hammond is?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's from the 90s.
Yeah.
Squat like 1,003 in the IPF or 1,008, whatever it was.
Crazy.
Like, I mean, he just literally dive bombs the weight and he stays in position. So a lot of it's going to be how fast you can stay in position. But the element we have to look at with the bench is one, avoiding injury. And then secondly, is that press command, because where are you competing? Because that's one issue we have like here is you're not guaranteed like who's going to be in that chair. You might have somebody that's just, bust your balls and it's going to be ridiculous. And, I mean, I've seen that with like Jeremy, people that like don't know how to judge Jeremy, like he's motionless and they don't call it press because they've never seen someone bring it down that fast. Then other people, they might seem like they get a long press command, but they're bobbling the bar at the bottom. So technically, if you go by the rules, we can just sit there, drink a coffee because the plates are still shaking. That's not okay. So you could have a real hard ass judge. You could have like a cheerleader judge that wants you to get, those are, if you're lifting the best kind, that want you to get the lift real fast. Clapping for you to go up. Those are my favorite kind when you're lifting.
Yeah.
But then you have people that don't know the rules. Like they're I don't know if it's ignorance or what, but they're gonna just think, okay, if you're down at the bottom for a second, that's good enough. It doesn't matter if the bar's bobbling or not. It does matter.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the favorite parts of when I talk to other coaches is this. There's no, like, when someone says this is right or this is wrong, that they're just chatting shit. Like what Josh has just said about it depends. That's like the answer to every single question you ever get.
Sure.
How wide should my grip be? How far should I bring the bar down? What accessory should I do? What, like, what I mean? Like it's literally it depends. Tell me more. Like,
it even depends on, even like you said, the grip wide. I mean, like it's going to be harder on your shoulder if you're wide generally. So like if you're just bench pressing as a hobby, like you're a lawyer on the weekdays and once every 6 months you go powerlifting me for fun, is it worth benching 5 more pounds to potentially hurt your shoulder really bad? I would say not. If you're going for a world record, would it be worth a big risk? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you have to look at a case by case on any of this stuff. And it depends is not a good answer, but I get the same thing. Like, is this good? Well, I mean, what do you mean by good? Like, is it good for you or good for somebody else? I mean,
you have to just go through like it's when people ask you those yes or no definitive questions and you're like, shit, what do I say here? How fast do you go down? Well, like you say, just
good thing to remember here is like so say you wrote an article that said this. Okay, good point there. But what I'm, generally you're writing something like that to the masses, you're going to look at something that works for about, 80% of the people. Probably it's a pretty fair statement to say this will work for 80% of the people. And that's how you get a right to it, where like you might be in that 20% or whatever. I mean, it just really does depend. But if you just like when you see something on the YouTube video, an article, or whatever, like just saying it depends, everything ain't going to cut it. You have to like give some advice, but like if you really want to beat it down, that is going to pretty much be the answer to most things, unfortunately.
I mean, I see with your programming, Josh, a lot of stuff. So with powerlifting specific wise, anyways, we'll go into the sort of tactical conditioning, etc. in a bit. But for powerlifting, you take on a lot of like stuff that a lot of people would say doesn't work. So you'll mix like heavy with CAT, which is compensatory acceleration training, with isometrics, with hypertrophy bodybuilding type training. Like you combine all of it, you use all of the tools.
Sure. Yeah, I think I mean, obviously there's, the best way to, build a powerful, a faster car is a more powerful engine. That's muscle hypertrophy. So there's that element. And then I think that is sort of like, what like I'd say would make me different would be not necessarily, you can say it's good or it's bad, is I'm not like, necessarily in the confines of just powerlifting. Like, I'm like seeing like, books I have right here and stuff a lot of them are going to be outside of powerlifting, or be outside of like, I might get an idea for something with powerlifting from a book on like speed training for sprints or bodybuilding, things like that. And then the flip side, we said for bodybuilding, a lot of people into bodybuilding would say none of the heavyweight works either. And it does. So there has to be, I think, that is sort of like with powerlifting. One thing I'd be careful of is just when you're learning information is a lot of powerlifting, there's a lot of like trendiness, cults, almost like cult type of behavior where people are just going to do something, like, oh, let's, go squat and then like, go to a Chinese buffet after and pig out, like that kind of thing, which there's nothing wrong with. But I'm saying that's more of like a cultural conditioning of like, this is fun. Instead of becoming an elite and the best you can do, you're using every tool in the box. It's more like, let's bang our heads and like, work squat, then go eat a Chinese buffet. That's not necessarily the road to excellence. You got to look at every little tool that could potentially help you. And if you get like that real myopic viewpoint, I mean, that's fine. If you just want to be, above average in powerlifting, and that's that, and like, have fun and go to the Chinese buffet, because I mean, like to get to that, like the amount of work it's going to take to get like, 80% of your best is like probably a third of what it's going to take to get to 100% of your best. It's a lot more to get that last 5-10%. And, for a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not gonna be worth it for them.
Yeah. It is that as you get better, you have to start sacrificing more and more, whether it's eating more, training more, less time with the family, etc. Like
Lifestyle.
the lifestyle, you have to completely immerse yourself in it.
Lifestyle separates good from great. It's like, talk to people, like, I'm working hard. Like people, if someone's not getting the results they want necessarily, you tell them, okay, but the thing is, I'll tell somebody, everybody I work with works hard. They come to me because that doesn't make you special. Everybody's working hard here. You tell them like, okay, every time you say, well, I got this week done early, or, if I give them some workouts to do because I wanted to like, go hiking this weekend or something. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't kid yourself. You're not putting in, the people that are strongest in the world, they're obsessed.
Yeah.
They're totally obsessed with it. They're not, social calls are, when they're with you, they're not really with you. They're kind of like thinking of what's going to happen. That's sort of why part of the reason I stopped is like, it's like just kind of like you're in a social interaction. Like this is like just something to fill some time until my next workout. It's like,
Until I bench again. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
like
crazy.
I'm squat later today. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, with isometrics and stuff, so you see a lot of people use like, it's become like a thing these days to use tempo work to like spend more time in positions that I don't even know if people like justify why they do it. But do you use like isometrics as a way to like spend more time in a position where someone's weaker, or like what's the
Okay, so I think what you're saying is like, so let's say 95% of people using them are just doing it because they saw somebody else do it and they think it's like something to like, again, like if you just want to get a little bit stronger and you need to be entertained by doing certain things, that's fine. You can do your, special tempo work or whatever, but like the way I do it's differently. So the isometrics, the reason we do them, so you can produce about 15 to 20% more force concentrically when you do an isometric in that same position if you're actually lifting the weight. So what it does right there is it basically you're producing 15 to 20% more force than you maximally could concentrically in that position. You're doing it for 5 to 6 seconds. So instead of taking like, a third of a second, eighth of a second, whatever in that one position, you're spending 5 to 6 seconds there and you're pulling as hard as you can. So not only does it do that, but it also programs your CNS to become more aggressive when you encounter that sticking point where like a lot of stuff you'll see people do is like a pause deadlift or something, but you're not lifting enough to overcome it. So you're not necessarily, all you're doing there is if like, let's just say you do a pause deadlift with 500 pounds at your knee, you can't be putting any more force in the bar than 500, because you do 501, it's going to start coming up. Where if we do using the 500 example there, like say that's, your max or whatever for easy numbers here, you're putting 575 to 600 into the bar by pulling as hard as you can against the pins. So the reason it's not more popular is it's really hard, especially for good lifters. If you're like neurally dialed in, like you're just in tune, and you're a great lifter, they're fatiguing. Like, dude, they'll like, you guys know who like Steve Johnson is, Forsaken Warrior?
Yeah.
Yeah. So doing those when he pulled 909, like, I mean, they would like wipe him out for a couple of days and stuff. I mean, they're pretty, for athletes that good that are willing to give their all, they're pretty demanding. They're extremely demanding. And it's one of those things, the way we do them is if they're not all out, they are a waste of time, because if you're going like hard but not full out, you're just doing what you could have done anyways on a concentric. So there's no added value to it at that point.
Yeah.
I've seen sorry to interrupt, Josh. I was going to say, I've seen every now and again in an event, you see somebody midway through a lift and it comes to a complete standstill. And if I'm judging it, I'm hovering my finger over the red button or holding the red flag, going, this is it. But every now and again, it feels like an eternity, but they pull through. And I think to what you were just saying, those examples are where this training would come in handy, because 9 times out of 10, that lifter would drop the bar or just leave it. But every now and again, they pull through.
Well, the other thing that's nice about them too, yeah, exactly. So the other thing that's nice about them too is what they also are good for is they're really good for people that were at one time of like a very high level of strength that have kind of fallen off. Say they like, for example, like the guy Big Al Davis, he did a layoff for a while and he came back to the gym, and he could have hit 650 any day of the week, and twice on Sunday type of deal. Then he's like, all right, so we put on like, 4 plates. It looks a little shaky as 405, put on 495, and I lifted off to him and I'm having to grab the damn bar, so like he had like a huge, he said he thought he's like, I'll be good for about 600 at least, but maybe a little bit more. It wasn't good for 500. Point being, throwing the isometrics in, not because usually isometrics are used to target a specific sticking point or region. But what I did with him was do it 3 different positions: go bottom, mid-range, top. And that led me to a discovery of, if somebody has been super strong, this will help them get back to getting strong really quick. So say it would normally take 4 months, it's going to do it in 2 type of thing. It does it a lot faster that way. I don't know what the deal is. It must be because you're able to produce so much force concentrically, but you're not having to actually handle that weight. Because like, if you're benching, say 700 pounds at one time and you hadn't been lifting, like you take off anywhere near that, you're like, oh crap, I'm going to die. Where if you just push against pins, it's not so dangerous and you're producing more force. So, and it's not going to mess with your head as much. So that was a really good discovery. As somebody had a long layoff, put them on those, we'll get them back up to where they need to go really quick.
That sounds like you're basically just giving the nervous system the stimulus like in an easy way, and then forcing the adaptation faster.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's huge. That's cool. I actually hadn't thought about it like that. That's This
I didn't either. This kind of happened by accident. I was like, man, we got to throw the Hail Mary right here. We got like 6 weeks coming up, and luckily he caught the Hail Mary.
Yeah, got it. And there you go.
Josh, do you find sorry to interrupt, Jackson? Josh,
do
you find a difference between female lifters and male lifters when it comes to that CNS adaptation, and maybe how they return to the sport after a big layoff? So for your female athletes, been off with kids, for example, and then come back to the sport after a previously successful career, do you find they adapt faster?
Yeah, they generally adapt faster, and a lot of times females are going to do better, like with more, more reps and a little bit more volume coming back than this kind of CNS intensive training. So I found like that's one of the main differences is the reps. And I'm not sure if that's because they're actually, because if it's because of like the biological difference of male and female, or if it's more of the deal of people like one thing I've found is people that are like that have more fast twitch muscle fibers, don't do as well with as much volume a lot of times compared to, I still want to work them hard with volume, but a lot of volume for them comparatively, where somebody that's a slow gainer or more slow twitch can handle a lot more. And generally, females aren't as fast and things like that. So I don't know if it's like because of that or some other difference, but I definitely do notice that like the stronger somebody is in an absolute sense, the more what I just said would help them. So if someone weighs 200 pounds and deadlifts 750, what I just had mentioned is going to be a lot more helpful than somebody that weighs 200 deadlifts, 400.
Yep.
And obviously the male records are higher. So maybe I'm not sure what the exact rationale is, but that's what I found is generally they are going to do better with more reps and more volume.
And so then in terms of speed training as such, because I've seen, sorry, a lot of the time you get people to, a lot of your lifters seem to hit like a top set, like specifically, like a 1 to 5 sort of rep set, and then come down and do some sort of like speed training. Is that like, are you a big band and chain person, or is it straight weight, or is it what's the aim with those?
Definitely, if I had to choose, I'd be straight weight. So, but I'm definitely in favor of if I don't know if you guys have read my book Bench Press Science. I got a section there on bands and chains, and I'm a fan of them definitely. But if I had to choose between doing it with them and without them, I'd go without them. But the goal there is to get some more volume in. The goal there is to perfect technique. The goal there is to move the weight as explosively as possible and just build great technique. Because a lot of the adaptations from the speed work come from the intent, not necessarily. So I think if you're moving the weight intentionally, like your intention is to be explosive, but you fatigue and it slows down, I think you still get a lot of the explosive strength benefits. Where just how if you're moving a lighter weight with that intent explosively, you get a lot of maximal strength adaptations too. So I think you can, by the intent of how that's another thing that's very important, I think, in lifting is intent. What's the purpose of the exercise? If it's, bench, squat, or deadlift, it's going to be to execute with great technique. Then, in a slightly second place to that would be to do as explosively as possible. Where if you're doing something like isolative, like, you're doing tricep push downs on a cable, like your intent needs to be to focus on the tricep. So you need to initiate that contraction with your triceps and really focus on maximizing that contraction. You just, and you kind of, that's not really going to help you that much. And like, you're not going to go to the, to the powerlifting meet, the pub, whatever the hell you're going to go and brag about how much you're on tricep push downs.
People still do.
Life's not a good place if that's the case.
I actually had someone ask me that day, like, "Hey, bro, so like, I've seen you benching, but like, what are you doing, like, rope press downs?" And I was like, "Does it fucking matter?" Like, I wasn't. And to be fair, I was training arms, and so I wasn't going like as heavy. But it's like what you say. Like the intent when I'm doing it is to hit my triceps, and so you do that hard.
Your intent's going to be to hit your triceps. So if for powerlifting, it's going to be to help your bench press. For bodybuilding, to make them grow.
Yeah.
So either one of those things is going to have the intent. And I actually have had very few injuries, but one I have had is elbow surgery. And I can tell you guys that that was no one's fault but my own, because what happened was I started like obsessing on numbers that I heard other people had done. Okay, Bill Kazmaier, did skull crushers with X amount for 15 reps. Great, I'm gonna beat that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that cost me, because he benched 661 and I didn't, because I got so obsessed on the minor. So like, I think Louis Simmons is dead on when he says, to bench, what he said, 500 or 600 pounds, whatever, just say 500 pounds. You need to have the accessory work of a 500-pound bencher, but you can get to the point where you get so obsessed, you lose the intent. and then that, you know, best case scenario, you don't get as much as you could have out of the exercise. Worst case scenario, you know, is you get acquainted with the local orthopedic surgeon. So I mean, that's how it rolls.
Yeah, there's some lifters around these days that they must be on like a first name basis. You
Oh,
know?
dude.
I got to find that now that I'm in my 40s now, I can't shoulder, I can't, tricep work I do now, I can't go extremely heavy. I'll put the effort into the bench, but I can't do what I did when I was in my 20s and stack up the push down with plates and all that stuff because my elbows just fucking scream. So
Yeah. Skull crushers did it in, and I think maybe the barbell ones, and then but just going too heavy on them, and then also on like, you know, not focusing on the muscle, just focusing on moving point A to point B, and then doing you know, really heavy bicep curls, you know, where like not like where they're impressive, like you could watch it and you wouldn't be like, that guy is like, you know, the worst cheater like of a bicep curl, you know, it's like a power clean, but it's cheating enough where but it's so heavy, it's too much weight on that joint. I mean, you know, you just can't handle that for too long. And that, you know, especially like we all got like, you know, we're all gonna have a kink in our, you know, our arm or somewhere. And that's obviously where mine was, because of the other things, like, you know, something, how have you never had, you know, a knee problem? You've done all this and this. I mean, a lot of it's probably luck. Where, how do you have the elbow problem so early on? You know, obviously I did all this, but that was more bad luck, probably just because you're going to be genetically predispositioned to certain things. So, you know, that I think though was avoidable. It wasn't like, you know, if I had some condition that was like on set to like, it was inevitable, it's going to happen anyways. And, you know, it just happened. Like, no, that was, I got too gung ho on it and paid a price for it. But I mean, ultimately kind of worked out too, because if I think I would have had, you know, if I don't know what, like, cause that was part of the reason I want to get out of powerlifting too, is just because I didn't want to get totally all injured up and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. I would have been interested to see like how my numbers would have changed if, you know, you talk about, you know, if you could have gone back. That would be the thing I would change, is that intent right there. I'd make sure that I'm in tune with the intent, particularly on accessory work, and not major in the minors.
Yeah, that is a big one that you see with people. They just, well, it's either one way or the other. They're going way too heavy. Or I actually I did a Q&A the other day, like just on my Instagram, and I had someone say like, should I be progressing my accessory work? And I was like, it didn't occur to me that people thought like that, if you know what I mean. Like, I was like, well, of course you should be. Like, if you're inclined dumbbell pressing to help your bench press, of course you don't want to just sit doing like the 25 kilos or the 50-pound dumbbells for like forever. Obviously, like, what are you doing it for? You're trying to grow muscle, or you're trying to help your bench. You want to get that up. But people are either one extreme or the other. It seems they just go through the motions on the accessories.
Absolutely. I think you're right about that. So I think generally, if you just gave somebody advice and said, should you go up or down, you tell them to go up, and 99% of the time you're going to be right. I think it's just going up without, you know, probably the best answer you give somebody is you want to go up, but not lose sight of the intent. You know, that's going to be like I think the safe, good answer.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah, I mean, you have to keep getting, because I mean, it's just, you have to keep getting, you have to keep getting stronger. It's just like, I mean, a lot of these things you can kind of like, you know, cheat your way up, and like squatting, you know, you could, you know, keep squatting a little bit higher and higher and do more weight.
Yeah.
But is that going to help you, you know?
Just find a fed that accepts it, I suppose. So what over your career and like coaching wise, do you put a big focus on like recovery? So like nutrition, sleep, any recovery methods like deep tissue or that sort of stuff? Do you actively push your clients to sort of go hard in that respect, or do your best clients do that anyway?
Here's the thing. I think two things. I think most of it's funny you ask this, because when Fred Hatfield was alive and he was proofreading one of my books, he thought I put too much emphasis on that, and it said that this is all fine and dandy, basically, but most of this is happening with proper periodization. Like if you're programming correctly, that's where like the recovery is going to be happening. But I do think, besides that is pushing the lifestyle of like, if you're going to be paying the price if, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. But absolutely, I'm a big believer in chiropractic. I'm also funny one is we talk about here is that Julius does a lot too. I do it too, is floating.
Yeah.
You guys know floating?
Yeah.
in the saline tanks.
Yeah, I have one in my garage. I do it.
Oh wow, I've done it once. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah, I fell asleep, but it was awesome.
Well, I've felt a few times. Like, watch, if you go in there and you do it like multiple times, I swear to you, this sounds like BS, but you actually get more mobile in there without doing a thing.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll feel more mobile, and you actually get in position and stuff better with doing nothing but floating. I don't know exactly why this happens, but it does. I think it's a good, it's also a good way to like kind of rest your mind too.
Hell yeah. Yep.
So I'm a huge proponent of floating, and I think how popular is floating with people? I mean, I know I tell people about it, but I don't know if it's like, do a lot of people there do it in New Zealand?
Jackson, I don't know about you. My wife studies alternative medicine and naturopathy, so that's how I know about it. But I don't know if the general public know a great deal about it.
They've sort of only popped up over here in the last maybe a few years. Like you say you've got one in your garage. I don't think many people here would own one.
Yeah, I don't think many people here do.
I drove an hour to get to the clinic where I went to.
There's a couple around like in Christchurch where I am, and I think they're relatively busy. And like I've had a few people say to me, yeah, they've gone and done it. So I think it's catching on. It's one of those things that's still slightly new. And there's a lot of, you get into that. So there's obviously like people put like floating, contrast therapy, cryotherapy, that sort of stuff all in the same basket. And they sort of almost like, my one works, your one doesn't. If you know what I mean? And so they sort of, it seems to be here that everyone.
Well, the floating, I think people only look mostly at the mental benefits, but there's physical ones too. So I think you get a lot more bang for the buck. Like, no one does cryo and hallucinates while they're doing cryo.
Well, I pictured a happier place when I did it.
Yeah.
I know. But the thing is, floating, there's actually the research on floating, if you want to look it up, sensory deprivation therapy is what it would be called. They did a bunch of research on it because my dad has a degree in psychology. So I brought it up to him, and he's like, isn't that like torturing people? Like forever? And it was, because they were doing it for like, 24 hours and stuff instead of like an hour or half hour.
Yeah.
And because when you can definitely like hallucinating things in there if you're not careful. I mean, I say if you're not careful, I think it's kind of cool, but a lot of people don't. But it's a good way to kind of like clear your mind and really focus.
So how often would you? Obviously, you've got access to one quite easily. How often would you do it? Every day?
A few times a week. I mean,
times a week.
If I had nothing else going on, I'd do it every day for sure.
I just wonder if it's got something to do with the CNS and the ability to switch everything off. So it allows your CNS to recover a lot faster versus having that stimulation around you all the time. Potentially,
especially like with electronic device. And I got about 5 minutes, guys, before I have to get off here. Is it?
That's all good. All good.
That's all good.
Yeah, go. So because we're about to go to eat. So anyways, I just got a dirty look. So yeah, I think you're right about that. I think especially with like electronics and stuff like that, it's bigger now than ever, because I think if you look at when they initially did the research, even in the 70s, there started to be more research that was saying there could be benefits to it and stuff. but no one, I mean, there's maybe a few scientists at major universities that are on those computers, like the size of your house kind of computers. But there wasn't people just, with an iPhone out looking at it, all the time. Like next thing now, if you get bored at the store, they're taking too long in line. You just go on your iPhone if you want to, and
you see everybody
go on
doing
Instagram for a little bit or something, like
Exactly.
that's a new thing. So I think now more than ever, like you're saying with CNS and stuff, the floating can be huge in the recovery.
I can imagine, yeah.
So just before we go, I wanted to touch on, obviously, if we're short on time, is Josh's almost what would you wouldn't call it a mantra, I suppose, or but the hashtag gasstationready. I love it, but just briefly go over that, Josh, for people who haven't followed you before.
Sure. So it's basically the idea of you pull up the gas station 3 a.m. some bad part of town, and some degenerate drunk hobo comes up, wants your money, wants your ride, wants your lady. Are you ready to defend what's yours? And that's the idea, is training to be ready for anything. It's the idea. So that's like you talk about, like tactical conditioning, that kind of stuff. That's all it is training to be ready for a multitude of situations and be effective in those situations. It could be like, gas station ready could be like, you need to sit there and, throw 20 knees real quick or something. Or it could be, if you're just you have to get the F out of Dodge and run or something, or whatever it is, it's being ready to do what you got to do.
That's very cool. All right, Josh, before we wrap up, how do people find you?
Okay. I'm on Instagram at jailhousestrong. My website, joshstrength.com. And then on Facebook at the Josh Strength Method. And I think it's my website, joshstrength.com, and easy to find.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Josh. We'll put all those in the comments below in the podcast. But thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. When's this coming up? When's it gonna be up?
This one will be out, Jackson.
It'll be not this Monday, the next Monday.
Following Monday, Monday the 7th or 14th. But we'll tag you in it and let you know.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
All good.
Thanks man. Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you later.